Here's our business problem. In the production department, there is a production calendar. And there are several different types of events that might be on the production calendar. If I go to create a new event, we have the regular metadata fields that you would expect to see for any event type. Title, location, start time, end time, that sort of thing. However, these two different types of events that the production department has. They have maintenance events and they have training events. And both of these types of events might be on the same calendar. And maintenance events have 3 pieces of metadata: the production line or lines that's affected, the production machine or machines that are affected, and who is the team supervisor for that particular maintenance event. For training events, there's a piece of metadata for the training room that the event's going to be held in, and there's a piece of metadata for the instructor. One way of handling this would be on the calendar would be to add the metadata fields for those 5 pieces of metadata, to just add columns here for those 5 things. We would probably also add a column for event type, or people could choose maintenance event or training event. The problem with that approach, although it would work, the problem with that approach is that we now have 6 extra columns that we've added to the list. And whenever we create a new event, those 6 metadata fields show up here. That means if someone is adding a training event, the metadata fields for the lines that are affected, the machines that are affected, and the maintenance supervisor for that job are on that form. And they don't want to see that. So what we'd like to do is people only see the metadata that's required for the type of event. So one of the initial thoughts for solving this problem is we'll change this to an info path form, and we'll use formatting rules so that someone says this is a maintenance event, and we'll show the maintenance fields. Or they'll say it's a training event, and we'll show the training fields. And after the last 2 days of working with InfoPath, you all understand how that would work. The problem is we can't, as you'll learn tomorrow in class, for most lists in SharePoint, we can create a custom InfoPath form to replace that, and you can do that kind of cool stuff. However, for calendars, custom InfoPath forms are not supported. So we need some other solution. The solution for this, to achieve that business purpose, is instead of doing an InfoPath form, is to use content types. So let me talk just a little bit about content types. If I go over to the site settings, there is a section on the site settings page called Galleries, and there are 2 galleries that are of interest to us. One is the content type gallery, and the other one is the site column gallery. If we look in the site content types gallery, all the different types of content that can be created in SharePoint are listed here. This is everything that Microsoft has blessed you with when you paid for SharePoint 2010. This AW meeting is something that I created. Microsoft didn't bless you with that. However, everything else down here is out of the box. Let me come down here to some things that you're very familiar with. The document content type. Web part page content type. Wiki page content type. A folder is a content type. If we come down to the announcement is a content type. Comments fields and blog sites are content types. The event is a content type. The event is the content type that's on a calendar list. And if we look at the event content type has been defined at the highest level in our site collection. So let me go up to that highest level. And here, if I come down and click on the event content type, you'll notice that the event content type, those different pieces of metadata, title, location, start time, end time, those are defined here. The metadata columns for content types are stored in that site column gallery that I showed you just a moment ago. So let me go up here to site settings again, and we'll go into the site column gallery, and you'll notice that there's a section here, a group called core contact and calendar columns, and you'll notice that in here we have the well, start date's not there. There should be a couple things here from the calendar that we just saw. There's nothing that's jumping out at me though. Alright, let's find start date. Which group is that in? Right there. It's a base column. Start date, end date, categories. So they're in the base columns rather than the core contact and calendar columns. What we want to do, ultimately, is we want to create two new content types. One for a maintenance event, one for a training event. The metadata that's associated with each one of those types of content or content types, we're going to add that as site columns. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is create your site columns first, and then we go create the content types. So let's go into the site column gallery and create the metadata columns for these 5 metadata columns that we need. So I click the Create button. Our first one is going to be called Production Line. Our production line is going to be a column of type choice. I'm going to put this in a group called AdventureWorks. That makes it our demo site here, demo company here is AdventureWorks Cycles. That also makes it bubble up to the top of the list when we go to select it, which just makes it easy. And we're going to say we've got line 1, line number 2, and line number 3. We might have 100 production lines, but we're just going to keep this simple. In this case, I want people, this is a maintenance event, they might be able to select, it might affect more than one production line, so I'm going to make that check boxes so they can select multiple ones. I'm going to get rid of the default choice because I know my end users, and bless their hearts, if I leave that in there, everything will affect line 1. The next one I want to create is the production machines. And if some of you can be thinking of a few types of machines that might be on production lines at a bicycle assembly plant, we'll do this as a column of type choice as well. And does anyone have any ideas?
Brazing machine.
The brazing machine.
Cog cutter.
Paint booth. Let's do welding. Yeah, we'll just do welding booth. And you said cog cutter?
Yeah.
Alright, these are going to be our 4 machines. By the way, these could just as easily have been managed metadata fields. And in fact, for both of these things, a best practice would probably be that they be managed metadata fields because they're going to be used all over the place. So this could have been a column of type managed metadata. Alright, our next column is going to be a team supervisor. This is going to be a type of person or group. I'm going to put it in the AdventureWorks group, and whatever the default settings are with this one, I'm going to be totally cool with that. The next thing I need is a training room. Let me create a column for that. My training room, I'm going to make that a single line of text. I could have listed, made a column of type choice and listed out the different choices, but I'm just going to make that one a single line of text. And the last thing I think I need is an instructor. Our instructor is going to be a type of person or group. I'll put that in the AdventureWorks category. And so I have our training room, team supervisor, production machines, production line, and instructor. These are our 5 different metadata fields for these 2 content types. Now we're ready to create our content types. So to do that, I'm going to go back over here to Site Settings. I'm going to go into the Site Content Types gallery, and I'm going to create a new content type. Whenever we create a new content type, we have to base it on something that Microsoft has already given us, or something that we created that was based on something that Microsoft created, so that we can inherit the properties of that item. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to create my maintenance event. Did I spell that right? Maintenance. I could put in a description here, but you've all seen people type, so I'm not going to do that. My parent content type for this is going to come from, it's going to be the calendar, and it's going to take me a moment here to find that. I think it's a list content type called the event. I'm going to put this in that AdventureWorks group just because it begins with A and bubbles up to the top. And I'll click OK. What this has done at this point is it has created a content type called maintenance event. And it looks and works exactly like a regular calendar event. But I want my maintenance event to have some special things. That is those 3 metadata fields that I just created for it. So to add those columns, I'll choose the option to add from existing site columns. I'll choose my AdventureWorks group. And I need the production lines, production machines, and team supervisor. So I'm going to select the production line, production machines, and team supervisor. I'll click OK. And that adds those metadata columns to this content type. Now I'm going to go back over here to Site Settings and go into Site Content Types, create another new content type that I'm going to call Training Event. This one's going to inherit, just like the other one, from the list content types, and it's going to inherit from the event content type. I'm going to put it in the AdventureWorks group. Down here for my columns, I'm going to add the 2 columns I need for training events, which is training room and instructor. That creates that content type. By the way, another advantage that we get with using content types, we can define, by using content types, wherever we create these, they become reusable at the level we've created them and everything underneath it. I typically create content types at the highest level within a site collection that I think they will ever be used. If we've got an HR area and there's a content type that only has to do with HR, and I know it is never going to be used anywhere else, I'll create it at the top HR level. So much of the time, bless you, I'm creating content types at the very highest level, and that's exactly what I've done here. That way they become available everywhere. We can write workflows that are part of a content type. So maybe for a maintenance content type, there was maintenance events might have to go through some kind of approval process. If we had maintenance events on 12 different calendars and 12 different sites, as long as they reuse that maintenance event content type, no matter where that's created, that workflow is always going to run. We've written it once and it scales out everywhere. We can set information management policy settings on a particular content type. If you build a content type based on the document content type, you can have a default document in that content type. Your info path forms, if you publish them as a content type, now that form can be added to multiple libraries in multiple places. Your promoted properties in your info path forms will become site columns. So they'll be added to the site column gallery. So if you need something to scale out further than just a single site, do it as a content type at the highest level where you ever think it will be used. Now let's see how we use this content type now that we've created it. Let's go over here to the production site and go into the production calendar. And right now you'll notice on the events ribbon, I can create an event. Just make a note of that. And we go into the list settings, and there is a section here called content types. If you don't see this section called content types, you can go into the advanced settings and check the yes option. If that's set to no, which is the default for most lists and libraries, you won't see that section. So that's done in the advanced settings. Once we do see that section, we can tell it we want to add from existing site content types. I'm going to choose the AdventureWorks group, and I'm going to add my maintenance event, and I'm going to add my training event. When I do that, that shows those two content types there. You'll also notice down here in my columns list, that added my production line column. It added my production machines column. It added my team supervisor. It added instructor. And it added training room. They all get added here. Over here I can see which content types those are used in. And I can make changes to these as well. So if I want to customize on this particular list or something, I could do that. But now let's go see how this works, how this would work for the production department. So someone comes in here and they want to add a new item on the calendar. When they click on New Event, they can choose if they want to create a regular event, a maintenance event, or a training event. I want to create a maintenance event. The title, annual maintenance on the cog cutter. We'd set our dates and times here just like usual. But what's different is that I can now say this is going to affect line 1 and line 2. It's going to involve the cog cutting machine. And Diana Diamond is the maintenance supervisor that's going to be over this particular job. I'll click Save. We also have a training event. In the training event, we're going to add a training event for how to add things to the production calendar, how to use these new content types we just created. We'll say that we're going to do that tomorrow afternoon. We'll do that. Well, we'll make that a lunch and learn tomorrow afternoon from 12 to 1.
don't need to know that stuff.
What's that?
People don't need to eat, I guess.
No, they can eat and learn at the same time. Lunch and learn.
1 a.m.
Did I do 1 a.m.? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. All right, 1 p.m. There we go. That's better. The training room. We'll say we're going to do this in an H104, wherever that is. The AdventureWorks people know where that is. The instructor for that is going to be Ed Matthews. I'll click Save. That adds those two events on the calendar. They each have separate metadata. And if the next thing you're wondering is, well, I still don't like the fact that those fields show up on the bottom of the form. They're underneath, they're recurring and that sort of thing. Maybe you want them up a little higher. If that's the case, let's go back over here where we created that content type. So we'll go up to the top level. We'll go into the site settings. We'll go into our content type gallery. Tell it we want to edit the maintenance event. And down here in the columns, I'm going to tell it that I want to change the column order. And by the way, I think column order is a bad choice of terms here. I think this should say order of columns when presented as rows is in a new or edit item form. Microsoft thought the column order would be better, but I think a lot of people see column order and they're thinking the columns in a view. That has nothing to do with this. So here, if we want the production line to be up a little higher, let's put that underneath. Let's make that number 5. The production machines will make number 6, and the team supervisor will make number 7. And that will make the description, category, and these other things down a little closer to the bottom. And then let's go over here and do the same thing for the training event. Change the column order. The instructor will put that as number 5. We'll put the training room as 5. We'll put the instructor as 6.
Could you not made maintenance and training categories as well?
I could have. Yeah. And it really kind of depends how much we're going to use content types and things becomes a factor in how I categorize things. It's really just for organizing. It's not used anywhere else.
The category?
The categories.
Yeah. Well, can you change the color and stuff on it in here? Like you can in Outlook. So that the bar shows up as a specific color.
No. Not if I'm not following you. You lost me there.
Third-party add-in.
In Outlook, if I select a category, I tab at a color. So that
Are you talking about the categories in the content type gallery?
Or are you talking on the calendar?
No, it's on the calendar.
On the calendar?
So it's a different color. Color code.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing you can do there.
It's a third-party add-in.
Yeah, nothing you can do there out of the box. All right, so over here in the production department, let's go to that calendar. And I'm not going to add a new event entirely, but let's just look at that form. The maintenance event now has our metadata columns up here where we want them, so we can organize this the way that we want. Notice it doesn't ask for any metadata that's not related to the maintenance event. Now let's show one other thing with content types. Do you think that the IT department might they have a calendar in their site? Do you think that the IT department has training events? Probably so. So I can go into the calendar here, add from existing site content types, add my training event here, and now over here on the IT calendar they can create new training events. Those training events has the same metadata. If you thought, it's real easy. This is now reusable. If you're thinking, now I'd like to see, let me see all the training events across the entire organization in one spot. There's something called the content query web part that we can add to a page, scope it to the entire site collection, and say, show me all training events. You can even say, show me all training events where the start date is within the next week. We can do some really great things with content types.